Hello friends, this is Dr. Shristi Mishra. I have done my MBBS from MKCG Medical College, Odisha, and I am here to teach you biology and make it a little easier for you to understand and learn. So let's start. So today the topic is locomotion and movement. It's a simple topic but it's important. Okay, so what is locomotion? It is a vital function of living organisms. It is needed for all sorts of movements like getting food, chewing the food, digesting it, for mating, for shelter, okay? And a wide range of movements are seen. Like in animals, the movements will be very varied and extreme, but in plants, you can see only minute movements, right? So what is the most basic movement? The most basic movement is seen in amoeba. How? So amoeba, that's this amoeba, right? These are the food processes. Okay. So imagine there's a food particle here and this amoeba is trying to chase that food particle, right? So because of streaming of protoplasm between the amoeba, the pseudopodia are formed. These are the false feet formation and they come closer and engulf the food particle, like you can see here, right? And after that, they will fuse and the food particle will be engulfed inside the amoeba. So this is a basic sort of movement, okay? So now we come to the point of what is locomotion. So locomotion is any movement which changes place or location of the organism. It can be walking, running, swimming, sitting in one place, you go to the other place to get up and get something and come back. So all of that is locomotion. What is movement? Movement is any action but it will not change your place or your location. Okay? So chewing, blinking, digesting of food, all of that comes under movement. Right? Now just because we said movement and locomotion are different things does not mean the structures involved in locomotion and movement have to be different all the time. Let's consider this example of paramecium. Okay? For paramecium, the cilia, they move the food to the cytopharynx and also help it to move. So here the organism uses the same structure for both locomotion and movement. Similarly, in the case of hydra, it uses tentacles both to move and also capture its prey. Okay? That's done. Now just because we said locomotion and movement are different, it doesn't mean that it's the same thing all the time. But all locomotions will be movements. But all movements will not be locomotions. Let's understand this. How? All locomotions are movements because all the locomotions, they cause a change in place and position and their movement. But all movements will not cause a change in the place and location. So they are not locomotions, right? Next. That is something you all need to remember. Now let's get to the types of movements. We can see there are three types of movements. What are these three types? There are amoeboid movements here. Then we have ciliary movements. And we have muscular movements. Okay, let's see them one by one. So now amoeboid movements. In amoeboid movements, they are seen in WBCs or macrophages, right? So how does this work? As the name suggests, they move in a way similar to amoeba with the help of pseudopodia, and that is because of the movement of protoplasm. Okay. And the cytoskeletal elements, which we also know as microfilaments, they also move in an amoeboid fashion. Here you can see the amoeba. With the help of its food processes, it is engulfing the food, right? Okay. Now, let's come to ciliary movement. Ciliary movement, they are seen in all the internal tubular organisms, right? In all the internal tubular organisms of our body, which are lined by ciliated epithelium. Okay, so let's see this. What do we mean? Like internal tubular organisms can mean our alimentary system, our respiratory system, and also our reproductive system. Okay, so here you see this is a ciliated columnar epithelium. The cilia are present, you can see the nucleus there. And here, in the next picture, here there is this mucus particle. This is the ciliated epithelium in our trachea, in our respiratory tract. So what happens if a mucus particle or some foreign ingested dust comes in? With the movement of these cilia beat and in that direction, the mucus moves. But these cilia, they trap the ingested dust material on the foreign organisms, right? So that's how it works. So, cilia and trachea help remove ingested dust and foreign material. Also, in the case of our reproductive tract, the movement of ova in the fallopian tubes is because of cilia. The movement of cilia, they meet, and with the help of that, the ova and the gametes move through the fallopian tubes. Okay? So that's done with amoeboid movement and ciliary movement. Now let's come to muscular movements. These muscular movements, they involve most of the movements of the body, like all the locomotory movements, chewing, blinking, etc. And also to maintain posture. Maintaining posture isn't as simple as it seems. It takes a coordination of the skeletal system and contraction muscles. They are in tone and all the time. This helps us to maintain the posture of the body. Okay. So, locomotion needs a perfect coordination between three systems of the body. Which are these three systems? The muscular system, the skeletal system, and the neural system. So, a perfect coordination between the muscles, the bones, and the nervous system will help in carrying out a function. So, we will study each of these individually. Let's start with the muscular system. Okay. Now, what is a muscle? A muscle is a type of specialized tissue which is of mesodermal origin. So, this is important. A specialized tissue of mesodermal origin. And this muscle makes up almost half, like 40 to 50% of the adult human body weight. Okay. And what are the special properties of muscles? This is something we should remember. The special properties are excitability, contractility, and elasticity. Excitable, as when it gets a stimulus, a nerve stimulus, the muscles can excite. And in response to that excitation and stimulus, what do? They contract. So that is excitability and contractility. Now what is elasticity? That means the muscles, when after contraction, they can come back to its original size and shape. That is excitability, contractility, and elasticity. We will study a lot of this in more detail further. Now, what are the types of muscles? We've seen what a muscle is. Now, what are the types of muscles, right? So, a lot of classification of muscles are possible, but we'll see the most simple basic classification, which is based on location. So, based on location, we'll have three types of muscles: skeletal muscle, visceral muscle, and cardiac muscles. We'll see them. Skeletal muscles, right? Skeletal muscles, as the name suggests, they're closely associated with the skeletal system of the body. That is the bones. And these muscles are all over our body. And under the microscope, if you take this muscle and see it under a microscope, you will see alternate dark and light bands. Like you'll see striations on the muscle. That is why you get a striped appearance. So it is also called a striated muscle. And a striped appearance under the microscope. Okay? So skeletal muscles are striated muscles. Now, these muscles help us carry out all the locomotory movements, walking, picking up something, all of that. So, this is something we can regulate, right? So, all of these are under voluntary control of the nervous system. Since they are under the voluntary control of the nervous system, as you can control and regulate and decide when you want to do certain activities, these are called voluntary muscles. Like I said, they are important for locomotion and also they maintain the posture of the body. Okay? Now this is the figure of a skeletal muscle. Here you can see the striations. Let me label that. The striations are seen and this is the skeletal muscle. Okay. Now to the next muscle. The next type is visceral muscles. One second. The visceral muscles, they are present in the walls of the hollow visceral organs of the body. In the walls of the hollow visceral organs of the body. And these muscles, as when you see them under a microscope, there are no striations. Since there are no striations, you have a smooth appearance. Therefore, visceral muscles are also called smooth muscles. Now, as these muscles are located in the walls of the hollow organs of the body, like again the digestive tract and the reproductive tract, the function of these is not under the voluntary control. So these are involuntary muscles. They are involuntary, non-striated, smooth muscles. So what is the function? Now they are present in the alimentary canal. So after we've chewed our food, the process of digestion, the food bolus will move with the help of peristalsis through the alimentary canal. That happens with the help of visceral muscles. And in the reproductive tract, the movement of gametes will happen through visceral muscles. Okay. Now this is a smooth muscle. You can see here it is big nucleus and it is spindle shaped. Okay. it is spindle shaped, and here you see the ends of the muscle taper. So the ends of the muscle are tapering, okay? And this is called a fusiform end. Then we've done with the skeletal muscles and visceral muscles. Now coming to cardiac muscles. As the name suggests, cardiac muscle, which is obvious, this is the muscle which is located in the heart. And these muscles, they are branched. They are branched and they are also striped. So when you see them under the microscope, they'll have a striped appearance, alternate dark and light bands. So they are branched, they are striated. And the muscles of the heart, can you control when your heart is beating? It's beating throughout your life, right? And it's not under control. So it's beating all the time. It is not under our control, not under voluntary control of the nervous system. So what does that mean? So that becomes an involuntary muscle. It is involuntary, it is branched and striated. Another important point to note about this is these muscles have intercalated discs. Now what are intercalated discs? First let's see the structure. I'll label it. These intercalated discs are the junctions between the adjoining muscles. So basically, since it's a junction, what will it do? I'll come to that. Here you can see the nucleus. These bands that you can see are the striations. Okay. Now an intercalated disc is made up of two things. Gap junctions and desmosomes. What is the function of these intercalated discs? As these muscles are branched, but it's a cardiac muscle, it's contractile all the time. So it should contract together as a unit, right? So what these intercalated discs do is they maintain communication through all these muscles. So when a stimulus comes and excites one part of the muscle, with the help of these intercalated discs, that is these gap junctions and desmosomes, the stimulus travels all through the muscle and the muscle contracts as a unit. So it maintains communication, also transfer of ions through these gap junctions and desmosomes between the cardiac muscle. That is the function of these intercalated discs. Right? And coming to the structure of the skeletal muscle, we will see that in complete detail later. Skeletal muscles, they are multinucleated, but here you will see our smooth muscles and our cardiac muscles are also multinucleated, but smooth muscles, they are uninucleated.